Inter-process communication message passing up. Message passing provides a mechanism to allow processes to communicate and to synchronize their actions without sharing the same address space and is particularly useful in distributed environment where the communicating processes may reside on different computers. So one process resides on computer, process A resides on one computer, process B resides on another computer, and for them to communicate you need message passing. So this is the message passing. Process A and process B is there, and this is the messaging queue. So it can send messages in form of M0, M1, M2, M3 till Mn. So a IPC facility provides two operations. So what is it? Inter-process communication facility will provide how much? Two operations. Send, what is the send? And receive. So send and receive are nothing but two signals. So send will do what? It will send a message. Send will send a message, and receive will also receive a message. The message size is either fixed or of variable length. Message passing. If process P and Q wish to communicate, they need to establish a communication link between them, exchange messages via send or receive operations. So first you need a communication link between the processes P and Q. So in this case A and B, they want to communicate. So first they need a communication link between them, and they also will require this receive and send operations. Implementation issues. How are links established? Can a link be associated with more than one process? How many links can be there between every pair of communicating process? What is the capacity of the link? Is the size of the message that the link can accommodate fixed or variable? And is the link unidirectional or bidirectional? So these are the implementation issues. Message passing. Implementation of communication link can be either physical or logical. In physical, you have shared memory, hardware bus, network. Logical, direct or indirect communication, synchronous or asynchronous communication, automatic or explicit buffering. So direct communication. Each process that wants to communicate must explicitly name the recipient or the sender of the communication. So suppose for example process A wants to communicate, then it has to explicitly name. So it has to name process B, that is it has to name the recipient or the sender of the communication to whom it wants to send the message. So it has to name that processor. Properties of communication links. Links are established automatically. So when a process calls the other process, link will be automatically established. A link is associated with exactly one pair of communicating processor. That means process A and process B are what? They are one pair. So link is established only between one pair. Process A can't establish a link between process C also. Only it can establish between one processor. A link is established between exactly one pair of communicating processor. So in this case we say that process A cannot establish with process C when it is already establishing with process B. So it is already establishing with process B, it cannot establish with process C. Between each pair there exists exactly one link. So between process A and between process E you will only have one link. The link may be unidirectional, but it is usually bidirectional. That means from process A it will go to process B, and from process B also it can go to process A. When you say bidirectional, two-way communication is possible. Direct communication. In symmetry in addressing, both the sender process and the receiver process must name the other to communicate. So what is symmetry? Symmetry means both of them have to name the other processor. So suppose you have said send P comma message, send a message to process P. Receive Q comma message, receive a message from process Q. So both the sender as well as the receiver have to name the processor. Process P will say send the message to process P. If we say P comma message send. Receive Q comma message means receive a message from process Q. In asymmetry, only the sender has to name the recipient. The recipient is not required to name the sender. So if process A wants to send the message to process B, process A does not have to name the process B. But process B, if has to receive a message from process A, process B has to name. So only the sender will name. So with the send message, you will have a process name, but with the receive message you do not have the process namer, because receiver does not have to name the sender. So send P message, send a message to process P. Receive a message from any processor. Variable ID is set to name the process in which the communication is taking place. So in case of symmetric, what happens? Sender process, receiver process, both have to name. Sender and receiver process both have to name each other. Whereas in asymmetric, what happens? You don't have to name. The recipient does not have to name the sender. Recipient does not have to name the sender. Indirect communication. Messages are directed and received from the mailbox, also referred to as ports. Each mailbox has a unique ID. Processors can communicate only if they share a mailbox. So properties of communication link. Very, very important. Link established only if processors share a common mailbox. A link may be associated with many processes. Between each pair of communicating processes, there must be a number of different links, with each link corresponding to only one mailbox. Link may be unidirectional or they can be bidirectional. Operations: create a new mailbox port, send and receive the messages through the mailbox, and then you will destroy the mailbox. So send. So this is what? It is a symmetric message. So you have what? A comma message, send a message to mailbox A. Receive A comma message, receive a message from mailbox A. In case of asymmetric, the recipient does not have to mention the sender. But what is this? Indirect communication is a symmetric communication where both of them have to mention about the sender and the receiver. Indirect communication, mailbox sharing. P1, P2 and P3 share a mailbox. P1 sends, P2 and P3 receiver. Now question arises, who got the message? Did P2 got the message or did P3 get the message from P1? Who got the message from P1? So solution: allow a link to be associated with at most two processes. That means maximum two processes at most. So if you associate a link between P1 and P2, then P2 will get the message. If you associate a link between P1 and P3, then P3 will get the message. Allow only one process at a time to execute a receive operation. Means either allow P2 to execute the receive operation or allow P3 to execute the receive operation. So at a time, allow either P2 or allow P3. Do not allow both of them. Allow the system to select arbitrarily the receiver. Sender is notified who the receiver was. So it can arbitrarily select. It can either select P2, it can either select P3, and the sender will be notified. The sender will be told about whether the message has been received from P2 or from P3. It will be told about who has given the message. So sender will come to know, but you allow the system to choose arbitrarily any of them. So first, create a link with at most two processes, that is either P1 is with P2 connected or P1 is connected with P3. First you will ensure that. Second, what you have to ensure that only one process will execute the receive operation. So either allow P2 to execute the receive operation and receive the message from P1, or allow P3 to perform the receive operation and receive the message from P1. Do not allow both of them to execute the receive operation simultaneously. Allow the system to select arbitrarily the receiver. So allow the system to select whether it wants to select P2 or it wants to select P3. Give that thing to the system. Give that liberty to the system, and you just notify the receiver as to who has given the message. P2 has given or P3 has given, whom the system has selected. Just notify the sender about which process has been selected by the system. You will notify the sender about which process is selected by sender.